What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Future Knights, Eric here, back with another deck profile. Today we are going to be covering one of my all-time favorite decks, that being Lair of Darkness. This deck is a fan favorite by most. It's actually one of my most viewed deck profiles, one of the previous versions. And this is the updated version with some very, very powerful cards that have been released quite recently, and being able to get access to things like Pot of Extravagance more easily have made building this deck at a higher tier possible. So yeah, I just thought I would do an updated. This is the 200 subscriber special. Thank you so much to all of you who are subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate it. And yeah, let's just keep the channel growing. Hopefully this video becomes popular. Usually Lair of Darkness videos do get quite a bit of views, but for all of those that are watching, please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and perhaps even share it with your Yu-Gi-Oh mates. And yeah, I'd really appreciate it. The deck is very similar to previous versions of the deck that I have shown on my channel. The ratios are generally the same. There's a few new spicy techs in that I think are very powerful within the deck. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments if you enjoy it. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So we're still playing only the two Darkest Diablos, one of the best boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Cannot be tributed, cannot be targeted. Very powerful card. This card you are able to special summon from your hand when a dark monster on your side of the field, very important, is tributed. There is also an interaction with this card and a Rima, which I will get to when I get to that card, whereby you can tribute another monster with the Rima to add him to your hand, and then on resolution, because a monster on your side of the field, a dark monster, was tributed, he can then summon himself, and he is an insane body. He also has the effect whereby you can tribute a dark monster, and then your opponent just chooses a card in their hand to place on the top or bottom of the deck. Initially, this doesn't sound like a very powerful effect, but it is with the field spell Lair of Darkness. For your opponents, it's actually a -2 for no reason. It's insane. And also that slow recursion of the effect, being able to take out card by card, eventually leaves them to top decking and hopefully finding something that can out this card. 3 is a bit clunky. 2 I still think is the perfect number for this deck. To go with the Darkest Diablos, we are playing obviously the best card in the deck, Lilith. She is what gives us access to all of our trap cards. She cannot be Ash Blossomed, and if your opponent decides to waste an effect veil on a perm on this, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's insane. The tributing his cost as a quick effect is very important because it means you can play during your opponent's turn, which often happens. There's been many games where I've used her effect in my opponent's turn, and then you just get so many pluses off of her effect that the opponent actually forgets that it's their turn, and then they're waiting for you, and you're like, dude, no, it's actually your turn. I'm playing during your turn. She's absolutely insane. Best card in the deck. Searching 3 vanilla traps. They can have the same name, and then setting one. You cannot use it that turn, unfortunately, but allows for recursion. If they don't have bodies on board, or you don't have the field spell to tribute their monsters, you can tribute herself and then search 3 back to fronts to just recur her during the next turn, if your trap lineup is okay. So you can use herself to dodge like attacks and to maybe lose target. So say she's targeted for something, you can then use her effect to get off the field as a way to resolve her effect. Very powerful card, best card in the deck. We are playing, like I said, a Rima. So this is your terraforming for the deck. He searches the Lair of Darkness when you discard him. Also, you can tribute a dark monster to draw a card, or you can tribute a dark monster other than itself to then search for a dark monster with, I believe, over 2000 attack. Yes, dark monster 2000 or more defense, sorry, from your deck to your hand, which is in this case your Darkest Diablos. He's got exactly 2000 defense. So you can use him to search out Darkest Diablos, and then if you've tributed your own Dark Monster instead of your opponent's, you can then resolve the Darkest Diablos and summon him out, and then just get those crazy pluses. Very, very powerful card. All the monsters we're playing in this deck are pretty much you have to play, aside from I think maybe 2, which I will get to later on. The next card is a new addition to the deck. Shoutouts to Byron for hooking me up with the Ultra versions. This is Malice, Lady of Lament. Now, Malice I'm a little bit iffy about because you do require a little bit of setup to get her going. You need a trap either in your grave or banished to be able to resolve her full effect. Also, she requires 2 tributes. So worst case scenario, it'll be 2 of your own monsters, most likely including yourself. But best case scenario, you'll have the field spell and then you contribute 1 of their monsters and herself and then resolve the effect. Just a note, with her and with Lilith, they are level 3 fiends, which means you can get access to them using Tour Guide. Only problem with that is their effects will not resolve. They activate on field, therefore they need to be able to, if the effects are negated of Tour Guide, you can activate the effect, pay the cost, but it will not resolve, even if they tribute themselves. Just a note that I've run into with rulings. Very, very, very cool card. Being able to recur traps that have been banished off Trap Trick, Lost Wind that has potentially been used twice and banished itself. It's just a great way to keep that grind going. This is a very, very grindy deck. You're not going to be OTKing your opponent, you know, in many games. It can happen depending on how many times you tribute and how many tokens you get, but usually you're going to be grinding, and this card allows for that grind. Also, having another monster that is a quick effect tribute is very important, just for that disruption of getting rid of those bodies off of your opponent's board. Great addition to the deck. And then finally, for the monsters that are not Lair of Darkness based, we've got our 1 Scythe, we've got our 1 Moraltak, and then we play the 1 Raiden, the multi-dimensional kaiju. Now, the Moraltak and Scythe are very common as in my previous Lair of Darkness deck profiles. The Scythe obviously locking out that extra deck, and the Moraltak getting rid of pesky floodgates against those back row decks. We cannot disrespect the back row decks and their presence in the format, and the Moraltak helps with those big floodgates, such as, I don't know, Mystic Mine, just general cards that we need to get off. Also, it gets rid of big bodies. It does target and destroy, so not the greatest, but it's still, being able to recur both of these within a game allows that grind game to be a little bit easier. And then with regards to the kaiju, I have spoken about this with regards to the side deck in previous videos. This is searchable off Arima. It's got 2,500 defense, and I usually side this card, but I was thinking having the 1 in the main deck just as a way to out those really scary things, the Dragoons, Avramax, those kind of cards, even though usually you can distribute them with your monsters and then using Lair of Darkness. It's nice to just have that 1 backup, and we don't play a lot of going second cards in this deck, obviously, because it is a going first deck, so just having this security is nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the monsters. The lineup I think is perfect. Obviously you're playing the majority of Lair of Darkness monsters, the Arima, the Lilith, the Malice, the Diablos, but yeah, this is pretty much it. You could add in the tour guides to get the tributors costs disruption, but not being able to resolve the effects, I think you're not getting that full value out of the tour guide. There is also an option to play a Scam with a Foolish Burial, so you can search your fiends. Obviously the Malice and the Lilith are level 3 fiends, but I think we're now playing enough draw power that we don't need to play that very sacky searcher, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the monsters, guys and girls. Moving on to our spells. So for our power 1-ofs, we've got the Terraforming and the Mystic Mine. We're still only playing the 1 Mystic Mine. I wish they hit this thing to 1 so I can carry on playing the 1. I've said that before in previous deck profiles. We are playing the other 2 in the side because it's such a powerful card, such a blowout. Being able to plonk this down and then just draw into your resources, exchange it for Lair of Darkness and go crazy. Such a power play. But we only play the one in the main deck because it is a little bit unfair, but it does give us a little bit of security, kind of like the Kaiju. We are still playing the one enemy controller and the one super poly. So we went back from the two super polys, I believe, from our last deck profile to the enemy controller. The enemy controller, I feel, is very, very versatile, being able to stop an attack, for instance, and being able to literally go basically +1. Actually, no, for us it would be a 0. But for our opponent, they're going neg. You tribute one of their monsters, steal another one, and use that monster, link it away. It's so powerful if it does ever resolve. And just stopping an attack is also quite relevant sometimes. The super poly, I like it at 1. The discard is a little bit iffy. This deck kind of needs every resource it has access to. So I don't like the discard, and that is also the reason I don't play Paleozoic Dynamiscus. That is a card you could switch out for this if you were going to switch out the super poly. But again, I don't like the discard. Obviously the Dynamiscus, it's not cost, so if they negate it, you won't have to discard. But it is something to keep in mind when you're working with your ratios. We do play the guard card. If this resolves, it's you basically win. The only problem I found with this card is it does stop your tokens from being summoned in end phase. Even though Lair of Darkness is mandatory, it will activate. So that is when it's available for Ghost Ogre. Only in the end phase. So even if there's no tokens being summoned, it does activate in end phase. And this stops the tokens from being summoned, obviously. So it's kind of cool that it's at 1, because if you see it, it's insane. But late game, it isn't that great. You'd rather open it in your opening hand, set cards, summon a Lilith, activate a Lair potentially, activate this, and then just go insane, you know, get more traps set. And if this resolves with a Lilith and Lair in hand, you basically win. It's insane. And then for our 2-ofs, so those are the power 1-ofs. For our 2-of, we only play the 2 Pot of Extravagance. Reason being for this, the Card of Demise essentially takes place of the 3rd one. And also, I don't know, the randomness of it, the RNG, it is a little bit rough, I must say. But being able to go that +1 in a deck that hardly uses its extra deck, hardly being a very key word, is very powerful. I would not play 3 because you're not getting the full value out of that 3rd one. You're drawing 1 card, so it eventually turns into an Upstart Goblin. So in that case, why don't you just play an Upstart Goblin? And obviously in the case of this deck, because it's not very special summon heavy, we play the Card of Demise instead. So I like it at 2. I'm very glad that this was reprinted in the Megatons, making this a little bit more easy to access, and this card makes this deck move up a tier, I think, pretty much by itself. It's insane. Also, an interaction with this and the Super Poly, I know that they kind of conflict. We are playing 3 Starving Venoms in the extra decks as to not banish all of them, hopefully, but you can activate this in standby, and then this obviously at the beginning of your main phase, so you can dodge that potential banish of all 3 Starving Venoms. Moving on to our 3-of spell, obviously we play the best card in the deck. In tangent with the other cards, you need the monsters to be able to get the effects off. Lair of Darkness, tributing our opponent's monsters as cost, which is technically spell speed 5. They cannot respond to the cost, they have to respond to the effect. And if you tribute a Crystal Wing, you can tribute a Guru, you can tribute pretty much anything. It's actually insane. If they have no way of getting this off board, what you can do is you can activate this, let it resolve fully. This play I've done many times. Normal summon the Lilith. Now, on the Lilith summon, they could potentially activate a Judgment, per se, because Judgment can also stop a normal summon. You can say that you have priority on summon to activate her effect, because there's a quick effect. And then you can tribute their monster's cost, and then they have a chance to respond. So you can activate Lilith's effect and Malice's effect on the summon, because it is a quick effect and you have player turn priority. Same thing with it's not Strike, yeah, it was definitely Solemn Judgment. So that's a very, very cool interaction that you have there. I did try it the other way around, whereby if you activate this, normal summon this and they don't do anything, and then you activate Lair, and if they chain something like Twin Twisters, I don't believe in that situation you can then use her effect to tribute their monster's cost, because this hasn't technically resolved. This would be chain link 1, their twin twister chain link 2, and then this would be 3, but then this hasn't actually technically resolved on field yet. So that is something in mind, to keep in mind. Obviously, normal activate the Lair first, and then normal the Lilith with regards to something like Solemn Judgment. But this card is insane. The tokens in the end phase allow you to get a very big board presence. Giving them tokens is not the end of the world. You just tribute them for your own monster's effect. And yeah, it's a it's obviously the glue. This card is the glue that holds the deck together. Then for our one-off traps, we play the 1 Metaverse Guard card. I wish this was at 3. Lilith, search 3 of this, set it, activate it, back to front the Lilith. You could go crazy, but for now, we've only got it at 1. We still play it at 1. If we do not have that Lair of Darkness, Lilith is 100% searching this and any 2 other traps. Very powerful card. I wish this was at 3. When they eventually hit Mystic Mind, then potentially maybe this can come back. Then for our 2-off traps, we play 2 Heavy Storm Dusters, 2 Lost Wind, and 2 Compulse. This is very mandatory and obviously very common within my deck profiles. These are the only utility traps that I've ever liked in the deck. I've tried Dynamiscus in place of the Heavy Storm Dusters as a sort of removal for monsters and spells, and I definitely prefer the Heavy Storm Dusters because it can pop your own cards, such as a Scythe and Morale Take if you draw into them, and then they can resolve. The Lost Wind are essentially strikes that permanently negate half the attack so that their board presence isn't very strong, and then you can recycle them. So if you do not trap trick it, you basically have 4 Lost Winds. And then with Malice, you can get it to 6 Lost Winds, because Malice recycles banished traps as well, which is just insane. The Compulse, also thought about with Dynamiscus. Again, the discard for Dynamiscus is not great. And then Compulse, just having these nice copies of the secret rares. I don't know, just getting off that Hulky Fibrax, or getting off that very important monster that they need on board is, I think, very valuable. And yeah, those are it for our tech 2-offs. Moving on to the last 2-offs, Trap Trick. So this is something I've explained in previous videos, that the reason we only play 2-offs of each of these is that Trap Trick is essentially the 3rd copy of all of them. Being able to banish one and then set one and then activate that one during the turn, extremely powerful. Also, the Trap Trick obviously gives you access to the traps we play at 3s, but yeah, this essentially is 3rd copies of all of these guys. The reason we don't play 3 Trap Trick is because it does have a bit of a hefty cost. We need traps in the deck to be able to resolve Lilith. So that is something to keep in mind. Back to the front. This is a staple in the deck at this point. Might as well say back to the Lair. It's one of the most powerful cards in the deck. Being able to get back that Lilith and then disrupt your opponent during their turn when they think you have nothing. Another option is actually Call of the Haunted. But the problem with that is it's a continuous trap. If it wasn't a continuous trap, that would be way better, because then you could summon it in attack mode during your turn and attack with a Lilith. If you summon it in defense during your turn off of this card's effect, you can't change it to attack and attack. You have to summon it during their turn, and then you can change it to attack in your turn. So that's just something to keep in mind. But insane card. Will never leave the deck. Very powerful. Now, this next card, I see not a lot of people play in the deck, and I've always played it. Solemn Judgment. When they draw that red reboot, or they draw their Twin Twisters, or their Cosmic Cyclone, and they target your Lair of Darkness, if it resolves, you 9 out of 10 times lose. And you need to have something that stops that destruction, to stop that removal. People don't play this, they'd rather play more traps, and it's very confusing to me. I feel like this card is some of the best protection the deck has. When I think the ban list that this came back to 3, I think is very close to the ban list where they hit card of demise. And to be honest with you, this going to 3 gave the deck such a boost, because being able to stop anything is very, very important. Obviously, paying half your life points, very hefty cost. Also, your monsters are not very strong. The Malice, they got rid of the clause where if it's normal summoned, it's only 1,000, if it's special summoned 2,000, and instead just split the 2,000 between the defense and attack. Lilith, obviously, when it's special summoned back, gets that 2000 attack, which is quite big, but not that big. The monsters in the deck are very, very small. So yeah, this is a very powerful card. I would definitely recommend running it, never cutting it. Even going second, being able to stop those very powerful plays in their turn, their second turn, is important, I feel. Yeah. And then, of course, the MVP of the deck, 3 Artifact Sanctum. People also have been cutting this card, and I feel like it's the worst format to cut it. It's such an insane card. Being able to stop your opponent from going to extra deck, being able to get a body for removal, being able to get a body on board sometimes helps push the game. Like, you can summon Sanctum out. If you have Lilith on field, you can tribute the Lilith, get it back to front, resolve Diablos in hand, because Diablos' effect, Diablos summoning itself is not an effect, it's a summoning condition. So you can do it during your opponent's turn. And then getting that Lilith back with back to front means you'll have 3,000 of Diablos, 2,000 Lilith, and then the site is 2,200, which is close enough to game. Hopefully you'll have a token at that point, and then the token is 1,000. Like, you can do some insane plays. This card is insane. Also, if it's popped on field, the destruction effect is great, because 9 out of 10 times people are going to put Twin Twisters in their deck when they know what you're playing. Yeah, that's pretty much the main deck. From there, we will move on to the side deck. Then we play one of the most important cards, our Lair tokens. These can obviously be tokens for anything else, but we need the Lair tokens because at any given time there might be 5 on board, maybe even more. So we've got the tokens. We've got the 3 Starving Venoms. These are just so that we can resolve our Super Poly. We don't play any other Super Poly targets. To be honest, I feel like this is the only one that really matters. Lair makes everything dark, so this is a great body to get at. His effect is not that bad as well. And if he leaves, it blows up special summon monsters. So it's just a little bit of, not disruption, I would say, but a little bit of a threat on board. And we're playing the 3, so the Extravagance hitting all 3 the first time is unlikely. But yeah, we just play the 3. Now we are playing a card that doesn't really make sense. We're playing the 1 Dragoons. This doesn't really make sense because I'm not playing the Red Eyes Fusion or the Dark Magician in the main deck, but I am playing it in the side deck, and reason being for that is it is such a powerful card. Like, it's unexpected in this deck, very much so, and the cool thing is all you need to side in is the Dark Magician and the Red Eyes Fusion, because Darkest Diablos is a dragon effect type monster, so you can send Darkest Diablos to the graveyard, and then if you have a Lilith and you've just resolved Anaconda, or if you just normal summon the Lilith and just straight away use the Red Eyes Fusion, because obviously, you know, we don't special summon much in this deck. You can send the Diablos during their turn, tribute your Lilith, bring out a Diablos. Diablos and Dragoons, are they going to be able to play through that? Highly unlikely. So yeah, that's why we just play the 1 of. Obviously, if we do side in the Dark Magician and Red Eyes Fusion, we'll probably most likely be taking out the Extravagance because we need this in our extra deck to resolve those cards. And then from there, it's pretty much just straight removal cards. We are playing 1 of each of the Nightmares. I was thinking about playing 2 Phoenix, 2 Cerberus, cutting the Unicorn, but then I realized extra deck space is a little bit tight, and I want to run multiples of the links and you know, fusion monsters that actually do something, that mean something, you know. So yeah, we'll just play these 3 for now. All great effects, you know, just getting rid of the pesky back row, pesky monsters, and then Unicorn, pretty much anything. It doesn't get rid of Dragoons though, but Dragoons is fairly simple. Tribute is cost, my dude. Tribute is cost. Spell speed 5. Get rid of those 3. The 1 of Anaconda, I probably would want to bump this up to 2, maybe cutting the Unicorn, because it can also then utilize the Super Poly. Everything's dark, so this is a great card in the deck. We played the 2 Beat Cop. I did want to play 3, but I think 2 is alright. Reading its effect is just another monster that tributes. If they end up clearing some of your board and all you have left are 2 tokens, you can turn 1 token into a Link Rebo, and then you can make this tribute deck card and still get you know, some value. She's, I believe, the only Link monster that tributes and is not tribute one of your own cards. Like something like Aura Mirage has to tribute itself. So very, very cool card. Potentially bumping it up to 3, but the reason I don't have it at 3 is because we run 2 Barricade Blocker. Now, the ratios of these guys can change. You can run 3 barricade, 3 beats, 2-2. I think 2-2 is fair. The barricade blocker is very important because if they get rid of all 3 of your Lair of Darkness, with normal destruction, obviously it has to be engrave, then this is very important. This is luckily just 2 monsters with different names. Also B-Cops 2 monsters with different names. So for that reason, we are playing the 3 Link Rebos. That changes tokens into Link Rebo, and then a token Link Rebo can make any of these, and then you can resolve these guys. The barricade blockers are very important to recur the Lair of Darkness, even if it's something silly like you have a Lair of Darkness on board and you just want to grab that second one, or the first one in this case that they popped. You can then use barricade Borg blocker, sorry, Jesus. You can then use barricade Borg blocker to add back that second layer in case it's removed during their turn, and then you at least have a follow-up play. And then that's pretty much it for the extra deck. Not that complex. I didn't want to do anything fancy like with Borrow Swords or multiple Borrow Swords or something like that. So yeah, and then for our side deck, we are playing the 3 Lava Golem. I was initially playing Sphere modes, but I've come to realize that a lot of decks are not ending on 3 monsters. They end on Borrowed Savage and a Herald, or, you know, very, very few decks are ending on 3. Also, giving them this and then tributing it off of your Lilith with your Lair is very, very powerful. Yeah, just an awesome card. Also, they are very pretty secret rares, which I wanted a deck to play it in that doesn't really use this normal summon unless you've got a very good normal summon. And yeah, I found that this deck could utilize the Lava Golem to its full extent. We are then playing 1 Pankratops, 1 Lancia. The Lancia we can obviously get off of our Sanctum, so we don't need to play multiples, and then the Pankratops is just an insane card. Outs the entire Salomon Great Board, which is crazy. And yeah, it's just worth it playing it at 1. We are then also playing, like I said before, Dark Magician, Red Ice Fusion. We'll then be taking out 9 times out of 10 our extravagances for these two. Just to get that extra bonus, extra boost if we're going second. Sometimes even if we're going first. It's very unlikely that you get 2 monsters on the board going first, if not sometimes even 1. So it is usually more of a going second type package. And because we're getting that 6th draw when we go second, the pot of extravagance becomes a little bit less depended on, I suppose. You have to play it. It's insane. One of the best back row removal cards in the game. The 2 extra super polys, obviously no explanation really needed. This is if you're going second. Sometimes you don't even need to activate the Lair of Darkness to be able to resolve this. They usually end on 2 darks. Most decks do anyway. And yeah, definitely welcomed in the side. We don't play the enemy controllers, additional copies in the side, because like I said, it's a very niche card that I just like the strange interactions with it. So I prefer it at 1. I did speak about this though. Mystic Mine, 2 of them, blowout card, insane. And then we play the 3rd copies of all our tech traps. This is to put in if you're not going against the back row deck. You take out the 2 heavy Stormdusters in main, you put these 2 in, and vice versa for everything else. So yeah, that's pretty much the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. It's very similar, like I said, to my previous deck profile. Just with a few changes, with a few more of the better cards that have been released. Malice has given the deck a huge boost, and the extravagances, being able to have access to those, has also helped quite a lot. Dragoons being a blowout monster. Also, boys and girls, don't forget your dice. Keep track of that Lair of Darkness, how many tokens you get. I forget all the time, so just make sure you have your dice. Shout out to my girlfriend for this very nice white dice. And then, yeah, shout outs to her for hooking me up with this deck. She bought me 3 of the structure decks when they came out for my birthday, I think 2 years ago. And, yeah, I love her very much. And it's one of my favorite decks to date. So, yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And there's big news coming up quite soon with regards to videos as well as perhaps publications. I might be writing an article for a gaming type news article corporation, so I'll let you guys know what's happening there and keep you updated. But otherwise, I hope you guys have a great, what day is it today? Tuesday, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. Cheers.